What's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another dose of your weekly rundown. Of course, join in with me all the way from the U. Just got done covering a men's basketball game. My guy, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
Good, man. How you doing? I want to shout out to everybody that's in here right now. Make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Make sure you guys subscribe. We expect the viewers to keep on coming in. Be sure to ask us questions as we go along. So it's been an interesting week in football. The New York Giants pull the upset win over the Seattle Seahawks with a backup quarterback starting under center and Colt McCoy. A lot of people didn't see that one coming, man. It's myself included. But that Giants defense, they really went to work, and that defense is legit. And Patrick Graham, I mean, he was doing it in Miami. Patrick Graham was doing a very good job with the Miami Dolphins last season. And then he comes over to the New York Giants, who really don't have too much talent over there. I mean, James Bradbury obviously is a name who's been doing some work, especially in Carolina, but now he's with the Giants, and they legit could have 4 Pro Bowls on the defensive side of the ball just with what Patrick Graham has been able to do. Like, we're even seeing guys that were late round, like Tate, like, you know, they got Mr. Irrelevant getting sacks out here. You know, Leonard Williams, who a lot of Giants fans and a lot of analysts and things, when Dave Gettleman made that trade and watched him throughout the last season, were just like, that was a terrible move for him. And now he's playing like he's about to make some money and get a new contract. So Colt McCoy, you know, he didn't look great, but he did just enough to keep the Giants in a position to win. And then that Giants defense went out and balled, and you know, it's a whole new story now from what it was a couple weeks ago. It's like the Woolly Giants are now a team that could make the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of crazy because a few weeks ago I was thinking, are they on the verge of maybe tanking? Now they come off maybe their biggest win of the season. I know they've been on the up, but not a lot of people picked them to kind of beat the Seattle Seahawks. So I think, like you said, the defense was great. It's on the up for them, especially the way things have started. So I think they have a great chance of making the playoffs. I know we're going to get into later with just what might happen with them in Washington, but I think things are looking great for them.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, Joe Judge is that dude. Joe Judge can coach. You know what I mean? Joe Judge has proven that he is a legit coach. We talked about it before, but we'll bring it up again. Like, you know, when the move was made, everybody was like, what's going on here? A dude that's never even been a coordinator before is getting a head coaching job. But he has done an amazing job with this team. These guys really play for him. We're seeing what the Mara and Tisch family saw when they made the hire. And, you know, it's looking great. Aside from that, like, the Bill Belichick coaching tree to date has not been good. The only guy who came from that tree we could say is doing a good job is Flores, who's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And now you add Joe Judge to that list. But it's about, you know, a lot of people talk about like X's and O's, the coaching and that type of stuff. We're seeing more and more now that it's about character and just the type of energy that you are going to bring when, you know, you're running a program, and that's been the staple of success for the Giants so far. And of course, the staff that he's put together as well. Like we already mentioned the defensive coordinator. I like what Jason Garrett has done on the offensive side of the ball. Like the things he's been able to get creative with Daniel Jones, and then they lose Daniel Jones out of throw Colt McCoy in there, and they make some things work for Colt McCoy as well. So like, kudos to this Giants staff. Like, I heard Stephen A say it on First Take too. Like, if Joe Judge was coaching, you know, some other teams with talent on it, like they could be Super Bowl contenders. Like, that's how much he's got him believing.
Yeah, definitely. I think I said it on here before that he definitely shown that he is a good motivator. He can get the best out of guys. Even like I talked about it before when you brought it up, that after you watched his press conference, you were really impressed by him. So I think he really shows that he's one of those guys can really resonate with people and connect with people and kind of get the best out of them. So I think that's one thing he's shown. And like you said, that might be something that's very important to get, just to be able to get people to play hard and people really listen to him and want to follow him. So, you know, sometimes with coaching, it's all about getting people to believe in you and wanting to follow you and things like that. And that's definitely a character trait that he definitely seems like he has.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And then, you know, we talking about Washington, they pulled the upset as well over the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. Obviously, it was a long wait for Washington to be able to play them. Pittsburgh was on not much of a wait. They played 3 games in a very short amount of time. It was close, but Washington, they're another team that's been trending on the upward for the last couple weeks now, and not just that, but they get Alex Smith, former number 1 overall pick, in after an injury to their starting quarterback. And, he's showing that veteran presence. Alex Smith is going to win comeback player of the year again. Like we all know what happened to him. The man almost lost his leg, in about 17 surgeries. And he's coming out here doing like the unthinkable. To be able to be in a position where it's like you probably think you're never going to play football again, and to now be leading your team to be in the hunt for the NFC East title and make a playoff push. Much respect to that guy, man. And it's going to be an interesting battle between the Washington football team and the Giants moving forward. They both got the same record. Giants got the tiebreaker to go ahead of them, but it's going to be with having a veteran quarterback like Alex Smith in there. It's definitely going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of is going to come down to who maybe has the easier schedule going forward. But I think both teams had big, maybe surprising wins this weekend. So it's good. I think Pittsburgh is crazy because they were undefeated. So for Washington to come out and get that victory is crazy. And then same thing with the Giants, for them to come out and beat the Seahawks. I think no one's seen maybe both of them winning this week. So yeah, I think if I had to pick right now, I kind of like where the Giants are going, and we talked about it. They kind of been on the up for the last couple of weeks. I think they're on their winning streak too, if I'm not mistaken. So I kind of like. What'd you say?
4 wins, four wins in a row right now.
Yeah. So I kind of like the trajectory that the Giants are going. So if I had to pick right now, I'd probably pick the Giants. But yeah, they're making the race seem a little more interesting than a lot of us thought it would be. Definitely earlier on in the year.
I think like obviously the division is bad with the other 2 teams in there, but I think those with the Giants and Washington really trending upward, like they're not gonna, neither of those teams. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you straight up like whoever comes out of this to make the postseason is gonna move on in the playoffs. But whichever team it is, neither of those teams are gonna be a pushover for anybody. Like I don't think you're gonna be like I gotta play one of the NFC East teams like you're not excited for that. I don't think.
Yeah, no, definitely not, especially with the way things have been going. And I think they'll end up hosting the playoff game, right? If one of them gets
because they won the division.
Yeah, so they'll end up hosting the playoff game too. So you have to go to them. So that'd make it even more interesting, even though there's no fans or anything like that. But still, I think like you said, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh, to be happy to play them. I think they're still gonna be a tough out, no matter what, no matter which one gets in.
Yeah, and I want to get back to Pittsburgh too, because while it was like. I don't think a lot of people picked Washington to win with the outcome like that. I can't sit here and tell you that like I'm shocked Pittsburgh lost to Washington. One, because we talk about Washington being a team that's been on that upward trajectory for the last few weeks now. But aside from that, like nobody has really talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers being like the team to watch out for in the Super Bowl, and they were undefeated. You know what I mean? Like they really just didn't have a lot outside of their fan base and everything. They really just didn't have a lot of people believing in them. And like even Ben Roethlisberger, he throws the interception to end the game. He hasn't really looked that impressive to me the last couple weeks either. They squeak one out against the Baltimore Ravens in their last game, and that's with RG3 starting over because Lamar Jackson contracted COVID. He gets hurt, so they have to throw in their third string quarterback Trace McSorley in there, and it's still a close game.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a little surprised. I'm not gonna say that I'm just not surprised, but I'm a little surprised because the Pittsburgh Steelers came in undefeated, and you look at their schedule, I thought maybe they'll lose to the Bills. A lot of us didn't think they'll end the season undefeated, but if you look at their schedule, I think they'll lose. I thought they were going to lose to like the Bills, maybe the Colts coming up. I definitely didn't see them maybe losing to Washington. Like you said, the way Washington's been going, they've been playing better, so maybe it's not that much of a surprise, but I'm thinking when I looked at their schedule, I'm thinking that they'll end up losing the game, maybe 1 or 2, but I didn't really think that Washington would be it. So it's a little surprising, but not a little surprising at the same time, I guess. So, yeah.
Nah, for sure, man. I think the other thing I want to get into before we move on from football, it has been officially announced today, Jalen Hurts will be the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. Carson Wentz, who was a high pick a few years ago, was in the MVP conversation the year they won the Super Bowl, and he gets hurt. Obviously, we know that whole story with Nick Foles coming in and leading them to the Super Bowl there. He has not been playing great football. And they chose to put Jalen Hurts in against the Green Bay Packers in the very late in the game. Once I know it was second half. I want to say third quarter, possibly fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts played fairly well to keep them in the game, and it really wasn't no choice. They had to go with Hurts, and they got a decision to make moving forward. Obviously, I think you should stick with Jalen Hurts moving forward for this season to see if you got a guy, but as far as Carson Wentz's future in Philadelphia goes, it's gonna be interesting, man. Like, they paid him a lot of money, so you can't just cut him. He's still got that contract. You can try and trade him, but they're in a tricky situation right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna be more interesting for Carson Wentz where he goes from here. I think the way it's been looking, they probably stay with Jalen Hurts, kind of the younger player, and maybe it's the change of the kind of like the guard or the position or whatever. They're going to start maybe moving forward with him. He's the younger player and things like that. They might just chop it up to it hasn't worked out with Carson Wentz, no matter kind of how good he is, especially if you keep the younger player. He's on a cheaper contract. So I think it's kind of more so where does maybe Carson Wentz go from here? It's going to be interesting to see maybe what they want to do with him. Like you said, they can trade him. They probably won't release him, so they can think about trading him and getting some other pieces, maybe to fill out the rest of their roster and things like that. But for me, it's going to be like where does he kind of go from here, especially with where everyone thought that he probably would be or where his career was going to go. So it might be maybe a little disappointing to see. But, sometimes a change of scenery is kind of good for people. So maybe it's just time for him to kind of move on.
Yeah, definitely. You would maybe try to send him to Indianapolis. I know somebody brought that. I think it was Max Kellerman that had actually brought that up as a something for the Philadelphia Eagles to get out and possibly be a good destination for Wentz. I actually think his offensive coordinator of the year, he was in the MVP conversations over in Indianapolis as well. But yeah, it's going to be tough for him moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be interested. Oh no, what you going to say?
I was going to say in the Eagles too, because how can you get off that contract?
Yeah, it's got to be interesting. Someone might take him, like I said, because a lot of just the way the quarterback that people think that he can be. So someone might take a chance on him, which is maybe what they will be banking on. But it's got to be interesting to see what they do. I think, like I just said, you kind of stay with the younger player on a cheaper contract and maybe try to move the older guy, even though he's not that much older. But still, I think you go in that route. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe they try to get a later draft pick for him or something. But like you said, we're just going to have to wait and see. But it maybe doesn't look good for him right now with the Eagles.
No, not at all. Well, let's switch over to hoops, because that there's always some things going on over there. We've been talking about it for a minute, the Russell Westbrook trade scenarios. A while back, we talked about him possibly getting moved to the Wizards, and those two organizations talking to each other. They had not talked to each other at all, and then boom, trade goes down. John Wall and a first-round pick gets sent to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Russell Westbrook. I like it for Houston in that they get the future first round pick. I think that's crazy that you get a future first round pick, when a lot of things that we were hearing were that teams viewed it as them doing Houston a favor to get to take on Russ's contract. So they made the money work, get the pick. And for Washington, tell me a better backcourt possibly in the NBA right now than Washington. Bradley Beal's a guy that he can get his shot off without having the ball in his hands. He can get his numbers up without really needing the ball in his hands. So you pair him up perfectly with Russ, who obviously is going to do his thing with the ball in his hands. But I've mentioned it many times. I feel like he's underrated as a passer. He's led the league in assists before, I believe multiple times. There's a stat out there that his assist to 3-point ratio is one of the most successful in the league, even higher than LeBron's, which is, again, going back to originally when he ended up in Houston, why I said I liked his fit in Houston with all that 3-point shooting over there. And they got Bertans, who's another very good shooter over there as well. Obviously, you need some more shooters in there. I know I saw you. You asked, I believe it was Fred Katz, if they'll start Rui Hachimura at the 3 this season. They got some pieces over there, and I'm not going to pick them to come out the East, but I think that's definitely a team with that backcourt, like I said, which is to me is an elite backcourt. You pairing Russ back up with Scott Brooks, that's definitely a team to watch out for in the East, and I think could make a run to the second round.
Yeah, it's good to have time to sit on the trade, because at first I kind of didn't like the trade, maybe for either side, but I still kind of don't like it for Houston. I kind of don't know what Houston kind of maybe gets out of it. I think if you think that the Westbrook and Harden pairing didn't work, I don't think the John Wall and Harden pairing would be any better. I think, like you said, you get the first round pick, but it's kind of heavily lottery protected, definitely, and then it kind of turns into a second round pick. So you don't know, like, you're not getting a lottery pick out of it. Maybe a late first round pick is good too, but like you said, maybe with the way things are going, to get a first round pick is good. But you're getting John Wall. I mean, he seems like he's healthy, and you're going to team him back up with DeMarcus Cousins and things like that. But I was saying on here before that I think if you're going to keep Harden, which it looks like Harden's forcing his way out, but that's another story. If you're going to keep Harden, it was maybe better to keep Westbrook and keep them together. So to bring in John Wall, I don't think that kind of tips the scale to kind of keep Harden. So not unless their plan was to get rid of Harden, then I kind of don't see it. But I guess it's good for them. Like you said, you get someone that wants to be there or something. I guess I didn't see Harden making it this uncomfortable for him, but I thought it'd been better if you just keep both of them into the season and kind of figure it out from there. But for Russ and the Wizards, I kind of like it. I at first I didn't like it for him, but with him in the East with Bradley Beal, they seem like they have a whole bunch of shooters over there. He's back with Scott Brooks, so he seems like he's happy to be over there and things like that. So I think it can kind of work out. They got a nice young core over there too to kind of mix in with a couple veterans that they got. I think they shouldn't be done though. If I'm Washington, you're trying to keep Bradley Beal. So that's kind of why you make this move. But I don't think they should kind of maybe rest on their laurels a little bit. I think they should kind of go for it more. You got Russ, you got Beal. Like you said, that can possibly be the best backcourt in the league, maybe definitely in the East. I think you go and try to get someone like Kevin Love. I seen someone else bring up Blake Griffin. I think you go try to get someone like that, someone to kind of give them someone someone like another forward or like another center or like another star player to team up with those two guys. I think if you do that, you kind of definitely keep Bradley Beal, and that definitely in the Eastern Conference, like I was saying a couple weeks ago, in the Eastern Conference, I think that definitely boosts them to maybe like a top 3 team.
For sure, man. I agree with you on bringing in another piece there. Definitely try to be a contender in that conference. I would love to see how they make that work, whether it's bringing in Blake or bringing in Kevin Love, because both of those teams are going to want to get a first round pick back.
I would give up a first round pick though. I think Cleveland shouldn't be asking for too much. They were last year. I would give up a first round pick and maybe 1 to 2 young players. I'm not giving up Rui Hachimura at all, but any of the other young players, I think I'd be willing to get rid of in a first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It seems like they like Hachimura though.
Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of him. I wouldn't trade him at all. He's untouchable. So I'd keep Hachimura. But any of those other young players I got that they want can definitely go, and they can have a first round pick, and they can have a second one too. Because you think about it, like I said, they're trying to keep Beal. Anything they do is to try to keep Beal. You get Westbrook, you pair him with Kevin Love, you're kind of like a championship contender from there. I think that's going to keep Beal. So if you think those guys can maybe compete for the next couple of years, whatever draft pick you kind of give up probably won't be that good anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think they should kind of keep going. And then, like I said, not resting their laurels a little bit. I think they should try and get another move in there.
Definitely. I agree with you. Go ahead. Go all the way out. Go out and make a run. I want to get to the Houston side of things, though. You mentioned John Wall, and I got a chance to see his training camp videos and what he's doing over there. He does look like he's back healthy. DeMarcus Cousins was also extremely happy to have him back. Those two Kentucky boys get to team up with each other again. Cousins mentioned how it was something that they had talked about always doing. He almost signed with Washington, I believe, last season. Or not last season. I think it was the year he signed with Golden State. So he almost signed with them, but opted to go with Golden State. So now they finally get to do that. So, it kind of goes back to what I was saying originally when we talked about the Russ trade possibly going down, right? About, I feel like maybe Houston's going to try and sell their fan base on this, regardless of Harden. And we'll get to Harden and everything with that too. But to say you got these two guys here right now, because they're names, obviously they deal with the injuries and everything, but they're still names. So I still feel like that's a possibility on the Houston side of things. And then, James Harden, who we know has been very disgruntled this entire time with them. We know he requested a trade to go to Brooklyn. Today, Adrian Wojnarowski reported that right before training camp, he actually told the Houston Rockets that he wouldn't mind being traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, among other contending teams. That code words for you. And, he didn't report to the first day of training camp. He just gets in today. He gets his COVID test, and it seems like they're going to get ready to go from here on out. But it's not looking good for the Houston Rockets and James Harden. I know they said they're willing to come in and be uncomfortable this season, but eventually you're going to have to make a move. And we know they want a huge haul, but at some point it feels like it's gonna turn into you got to kind of take what you can get, right? Or am I wrong? Because with Brooklyn, and it was also reported that the Brooklyn Nets and the Houston Rockets haven't even actually talked. But with Brooklyn, that the first two names in that trade package are going to be like a Spencer Dinwiddie and a Karis LeVert. So exactly what goes on here. I mean, Daryl Morey said he wants to run it forward with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. But if you're going to make a move for James Harden in Philadelphia, one of those two guys got to be your starting point. Or else for Houston, it's like it's no go.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm Houston, I'd just get rid of him. I think I told you before. I think it's probably gonna get worse before it gets better if they try to keep him and hold on to him. Especially with how things have been going. He didn't show up to training camp. Then he's partying with Lil Baby. He's in the strip club. With everything that's going on, it just looks kind of terrible. They're asking the new coach about where he is and things like that. So I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I think I said on here like 2 weeks ago, I would just blow that team up. I don't know what they're doing. As soon as both of those guys axed out, I think they could have maybe got some pieces to come in if both of them didn't axe out. But as soon as both of them axed out, it was kind of like, what are they gonna do this offseason? They kind of sat around, and nobody really wants to go there because it's like, people want to go there to play with Harden and Russ, or play with Harden, at least Harden. So it's like, if both of them don't want to be there, you're not going to be able to sign nobody. So their offseason was kind of just a waste. I mean, they was able to bring DeMarcus Cousins, but he's hurt. So, he was hurt. That's kind of why there was no market for him and things like that. Christian Wood's a nice young piece, but he's not tipping the scale for them. So I said weeks ago, they kind of just have to blow it up because they were in a terrible spot. I think they're in a worse spot now. So I think they should just get rid of him. I think it's... When you think about the trade that the Pelicans made with Anthony Davis, a lot of people knocked them for doing a trade and kind of forced Dell Demps not to do the trade at the trade deadline. And then later on, they basically did the same trade. I mean, essentially, later on they figured out that they had Zion and those pieces would fit better around Zion. But they did the same exact trade later on. And I guess they knew that Lakers pick was going to be high. They didn't know it would be 4. They knew it was going to be high. But they did the same exact trade. And then people gave the new GM so much credit for doing the same trade. So it does, I think, essentially you want to get a lot back, but when you think about it, when does a lot of superstars kind of get traded for another superstar? So
go ahead.
Now I was gonna say it's gonna be tough for them to get exactly what they want back for Harden. I think at this point, if you can get Ben Simmons, obviously Ben Simmons is a superstar player, so maybe that's the route you should go. But I think you kind of just have to trade him and get rid of him. I think the Nets package is not as bad as people think it is. I think if you think Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, a couple, like a haul of draft picks, you fill those players in around John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins. You kind of have a nice roster there if John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins is going to be healthy.
Yeah, when you're moving $1, you don't get $1 back. You always get 4 quarters. It's always been in the history of the NBA. That's always been the case. And I think the Houston Rockets really need to understand that. And when you use that analogy, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, that's pretty much it. With the Philadelphia 76ers, I mean, we'll wait and see. It wouldn't, because I think it wouldn't shock me that they would move on from one of those two to bring in Harden, especially when you got Morey in there who's got that history with him. But I'm going to take him at his word and say he's not going to just jump the gun on that. So, but yeah, Houston is in a weird place, man. Definitely is. We got some questions in here, and we encourage you guys to keep on asking us these questions as we get moving forward. But to start off, do you think Russ will find more success in the East? I do. Why and why? Aside from anything else, pretty much anybody that gets the chance to come over to the East is finding more success these days. But aside from that, he's paired up back with his coach that he was with when he went to the NBA Finals. And like I said, he's with Bradley Beal, who's a guy who can score efficiently without having to have the ball in his hands. So and Russ has led every team he's been on to the postseason. You know, the MVP season, Oklahoma City is a lottery team without him. K, I know you're pretty well versed with Oklahoma City. They were the 5th seed or the 6th seed that year.
After KD left?
Yeah.
6.
So he leads them to the 6th seed MVP season. Then they bring in Paul George and Melo. And, you know, I talk about it a lot. If you look back, those guys were not playing well together. That team was not doing well, and Russ willed them into the playoff race. The team started doing well, and then Andre Robertson gets hurt, and then, you know, things kind of go down from there. But, you know, everywhere he's been, he's brought them into the postseason. So I think when you combine all those factors, it's something that will work out in Russ's favor and in the Wizards' favor.
Yeah, I would have to agree for most of the things that you said. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Eastern Conference. Like you said, a lot of players have been able to come over to the East and have a lot of success. So it's the Eastern Conference. I think with just that being a factor, that he's going to be able to kind of destroy the Eastern Conference. Also, I think Bradley Beal kind of may fit around him maybe better than anyone that's been or not, because PG's fitted kind of good. I think having Bradley Beal with him, like you said, is going to be good. And I think Bradley Beal, he said in his press conference that he's very adaptable. I think having Bradley Beal, he's someone that can catch and shoot. He's someone that game is just so versatile. I think he's going to be one of maybe the best players to kind of fit around Russ kind of so well. He's used to playing with kind of a ball-dominant guard, because John Wall's kind of like maybe the same player that Westbrook is. So he's used to playing with a ball-dominant guard. He knows how to adapt around him like that. So I think all those things, like all in all, will kind of just fit, kind of go in Russ's favor. And then the bottom of the East is kind of bad. So they'll be playing a lot of bad teams where he can just stack up those triple-doubles.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I know same person that asked the question says, of course, Russ has a great impact on any team, but in the playoffs, do you think he'll have a deeper run? No, I think that they'll make like I said earlier, I don't know if you were tuned in when we were talking, but I think that they'll make not for sure, but me personally, I think they have a shot to make the second round with the team currently constructed.
Same. It's all going to depend on matchups. You're going to want to avoid the Nets and maybe the Bucks. After that, anything else is kind of up in the air. I think he's not going to be able to make a deeper run. They got to the second round last year. No, I don't think he's going to be able to make a deeper run unless they do, like I said, and kind of trade for Kevin Love or Blake Griffin. I think they're going to have to maybe make one more piece, and then after that, they'll be able to make. After that, it's kind of up in the air. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. So Antoine Brooks asks, where do you think the best move for Harden? Where do you think is the best move for Harden personally? And do you think him and KD back together in Brooklyn might bring some momentum? Me personally, I think Philadelphia, if you can keep Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together, that could kind of be like your missing piece there. And Morey did a good job adding a lot of shooting to a team that definitely needed it. But I think adding him to Philadelphia with a point guard like Simmons and a big like Embiid is kind of going to be the missing piece for the Sixers. I just don't know how you get it done while keeping both of those guys together. But, you know, that's just me personally. I've kind of said it before with Brooklyn. If you're going to bring in James Harden to add into Kyrie and KD, there's only one ball to go around. You know, you got a lot of isolation play and everything there. And Kyrie isn't the passer that Russ is, for a lot of people that asked how that was going to work. So that's a little different of a dynamic. So I've always kind of questioned that, but it's Philly for me.
I may be a little biased on it, but I'd love to see him in Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn can fit. I think all the issues that you just brought up with Brooklyn are real issues and could be a problem. But obviously KD wants him there. It all depends on Kyrie. If Kyrie wants him there, I don't know exactly how it's going to work right now, but I think Brooklyn that's where I want to see him go. I think he'll bring a lot of momentum. I think if he gets to Brooklyn, I think they're the favorite to win it all. I'm taking him over the Lakers.
All right. I think a lot of people would look at them as a favorite with those three. But you're going to have to sacrifice your depth to bring him in and restructure your roster a little bit throughout the season. So it's kind of tough because it's so late in the game with preseason getting ready to start up here pretty soon. But we'll see. And I want to stick to Brooklyn a little bit with LeBron James on Richard Jefferson's podcast. He kind of brought back up the whole situation with Kyrie a few months back when he mentioned him playing with KD and how he feels he's finally, for the first time, playing with someone where it's like he doesn't have to worry about them at the end of the game making that big shot. Like he has somebody else who can do exactly what he does. So LeBron James goes on the road trip and podcast, and he makes it known that he said clearly he's bothered by it, right? But he goes on and he says, he was only worried about Kyrie on and off the court, making sure that he was an all-star and the best he could be and everything. So he was just like, wow, like taken aback by it. So like, what were your thoughts when you were seeing that interview and everything?
I guess I get where Bron is. I get where both of them are coming from. I get where Bron's coming from because even when Kyrie said it, everyone thought it was a shot at Bron. But I think Kyrie kind of had a point in what he was saying. I don't think it was like maybe a shot at Bron, but Bron, he's become a better shooter over the years, but he's not the greatest shooter, I would say. He's a very good shooter. He's not the greatest shooter. And then he's not a good free throw shooter. So sometimes down the stretch, he just doesn't want to drive and go to the free throw line. So if you think about it, KD is the better shooter, the better scorer, to be honest. So I get the point that Kyrie's trying to say because KD's obviously a better scorer than Kyrie. So he's looking over and really saying that this is the first time I've seen someone who's a better scorer than me. Now, we wouldn't say that Kyrie's a better player than Bron, but you can say Kyrie's a better scorer than Bron, and I would get where you're coming from. So I think Bron, I guess if you like, he said he read the whole transcript and he looked at it, so like I get why he would kind of be hurt because like I said, it seems like a shot at him. And like even when he said in the interview, like all he wanted to do was see Kyrie be successful and do everything for Kyrie. So it's kind of like when you show so much love to someone and they kind of maybe backstab you a little bit, it does maybe hurt a little bit. But I think it was less of a shot at Bron because even if Bron has to know that KD's a better scorer than him, and I think that's kind of the only point that Kyrie was getting at.
Yeah, kudos to Kyrie Irving for staying consistent on this since the breakup back in Cleveland when he got traded over to Boston, but. I agree with you. I see where both of them are coming from on it. And LeBron, he's made some very clutch shots in his career, but he's not known for that because he's that pass first guy. You know what I mean? That's why it was great for him to come back and play with Kyrie Irving, and why it just made sense that at the end of that game towards the end of that game 7, that the ball's in Kyrie's hands to make that shot.
Yeah, I think it's less about him being a clutch scorer though, and kind of more about just being a scorer in general. I guess maybe because the point that they were talking about was kind of like towards the end of the game. But I think Kyrie's point maybe is more so like, this is, like I said, the first time I've looked over and seen someone who's a better scorer than me, where it's like, okay, I think he should maybe have the ball because he's a better scorer than me. I think that's maybe more the point he was getting at, and less more of a like, oh, Bron's not clutch. Because like you said, this like you can see how many game winners he's hit and things like that. But it's more, I think, towards like a scorer type of thing that he was kind of maybe getting at.
Yeah, man, for sure. Absolutely. It's definitely something to look out for on that front. So Bron, he signs his long-term deal with the Lakers. Anthony Davis also signs his long-term deal with the Lakers. The Lakers are in a real interesting situation now. They got their guys paid, and moving forward here, they're looking to go on a run. I think Stephen A that said he could see the Lakers three-peating. I definitely could. And with that being said, the question I think to ask is if they three-peat. I want to talk about their team dynamic too with all of this, because Bron set himself up nice. When his contract is over, his son is going to be coming out of high school, so that sets up the question of him possibly playing with his son, or he could just like retire and let his son have that shine moving forward. But so that's one thing. But the other thing too here is if they three-peat, LeBron is 4-6 in the NBA Finals. If they three-peat, he would be 6-6 in the NBA Finals. So what does that do for his conversation on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, and him and MJ, which has consistently been linked his entire career?
The first question, I think he even came out and said it again recently that he definitely wants to play with his son. So I think that's something that's kind of not even a question that he kind of wants to do. So if he can do it, so I think that's kind of what he's aiming for. As far as if they do go on a three-peat and he ends up being 6-6, I think he kind of stays where he's at. I think some people are going to debate that he's the best ever, and then some people are going to debate that he's still not. I think for me, he'll probably still stay at number 2. But a lot of people, it's going to be because he's at the point where it's like it's either him or Jordan. I don't think him getting the 6-6 is not changing the fact that some people are still going to put Jordan over him because Jordan's 6-0, no matter how you slice it. People are always going to look at it that way. So for some, I think it's going to give just the Bron supporters or the LeBron people who think he's the best player ever, the GOAT. It just gives them more of an argument to keep the argument going, honestly. But I don't think it kind of changes it too much. He's still going to be either 1 or 2. I don't think it definitely makes him number 1, which is kind of really the question.
Yeah, no, I agree. I always go back to when talking about the GOAT. It always goes to those moments and everything. Like I think LeBron has done enough where when you're talking about like skill for skill and just the things that they do and their impacts on teams, I think the argument's there that he's better than Jordan in that sense, but the greatest of all time, what Jordan did for basketball, the moments he had going 6 for 6, really dominating the league the way that he did. And that's not to say LeBron doesn't dominate the league, but the way Jordan did it, that's him all day.
Yeah, definitely. I think Jordan dominated the league where it's kind of like it wasn't no question. I think just that killer mentality that he has had the whole time and kind of going 6-0, I think just when people look at the GOAT thing, it's more it's how things like happen and how you handle things too, more than kind of just all about the stats and winning. Some people just see the way that Jordan dominated and things like that, and they're like, just off that, to dominate like that, go 6-0, have people scared of you, be able to kind of kill anyone whenever you want. After just like that mentality, people are just always going to think that he's the GOAT.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So Antoine Brooks asked us another question. How do you guys feel about Bron's Ferrari? I don't know if you got the chance to see that video. I did. It's a very nice car. I definitely like how LeBron's out here living his life. I aspire to have something like that one day, but very nice car.
I did not see it. What was he? Just posted a video of his car?
It was somebody else posted a video of him on the highway driving. He had the top down, mask up. You know, he was just cruising down the highway. I mean, when you live the life he lives, you get to do things like that.
Yeah, I did not see the video, but I can imagine what it looks like with the type of money he has. So who knows?
Yeah, like you said, you wanted to. No, go ahead.
Like you said, I strive to get there one day. So
yeah, for sure, man, for sure. I know you had some things that you wanted to talk about too.
Oh, there's after the Russ trade, there's been a lot of talk that Russ and Harden didn't fit. I beg to differ. I guess we talked about it on here a lot that after the season. First of all, I talked about it on here that they were. If you look at the end of Game 2 and Game 3, they lost both of those games in the fourth quarter. You talk about everything that led up to it. Russ got hurt. He got COVID. All that type of things happened. You could say maybe they wasn't the greatest fit, but to say that both of them wanted to trade and they had to trade one of them because it didn't work, I think is just not true. If you look at the numbers, Harden still was kind of Harden and Russ was still kind of Russ. Now, when Harden had the ball, it kind of didn't work to the best because like Russ is not a shooter and sometimes he had to kind of spot up. But I don't want to say just look at the numbers, but if you look at the numbers, and I watched them all year, I wouldn't say like it didn't work or it couldn't work. I think it definitely could have worked. Like I said, it wasn't like the greatest pieces that fit in the puzzle, but they fit. Now, I think Harden may have to change his game just a little bit. I mean, they did go small ball and try to do different things like that. It was more of a your turn, my turn type of thing at times. But I think that's just D'Antoni's offense and kind of how the Rockets did. Because even when you look when he had Chris Paul, it was kind of just, okay, your turn, my turn. You isolate, you run pick and roll, you do this, you do that. It was kind of more the D'Antoni system. But I think that if you look at them numbers, and some people argued that before the season had kind of got shut down, Russ was having maybe the best year of his career. You look at them numbers and kind of watch some of them games. Like, it worked. It maybe wasn't the greatest fit, but it worked, and it could have worked. Especially, they only played 1 year together. So if you think about it, with a couple more years under their belt, it could have worked.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I even went back to like when they first got paired up together. Even though James wasn't a starter on that team, he wasn't the guy we know him to be today. Like they ended games together and they played very well when they were on the court together in Oklahoma City. But you know, we saw especially when they went to the small ball lineup and how they were really able to unlock things. Because down the stretch was when we always got to see those guys on the court at the same time. Right? There was a couple of instances where Russ did what Russ does, where I talk about him really being that point guard, and you know he's finding James in the corner for James to make those big shots. So it's definitely something that worked. I mean, with any team, when you're pairing guys up together, you got to see it through more than 1 year, because that gives you need that adjustment period to go through to be able to get your core guys, that duo at least, to be able to maximize their potential. So I mean, it was great to see. I was happy that those guys got a chance to team up with each other. I definitely wish it would have lasted longer, because Houston was definitely one of my favorite teams to watch last season, especially going to the small ball lineup. But for anybody that says it didn't work, like just look at the numbers, look how far they got. Like, you're wrong. Not only that, but you know, you can talk about how they did against the Lakers. They had the circumstances going against them, from Russ coming back from COVID-19, and we mentioned that a bunch of times, how all these pro athletes, when they contract the virus in their first coming back, they really don't quite look like themselves. We've seen it with Kendrick Nunn, who finished second in Rookie of the Year voting. He comes back, he loses his starting job, doesn't even really get to play until the finals come around, and then finally when he gets his minutes in the finals, it's a little bit of a different story. We saw it with Russ, Russ dealt with COVID-19 and then also dealt with the hamstring injury as well. So they just had so much going on against him there. But, you know, staying on the COVID-19 point, just to make my point, even we see it now with Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. Cam Newton was doing what he had to do for the New England Patriots, and he looked good and the team looked good. He contracts COVID-19. They got a couple games skid when he comes back where they don't look that good. And now they're starting to get on the roll. They're back at 500, and this is, you know, weeks after he's come back from the virus.
Yeah, definitely. I think even with, like, when it first happened, it was, Russ and Harden kind of didn't want to play together no more. I think those are kind of just false, because even with Russ gone now, I guess like the Rockets aren't a championship team, and Harden said he wants to win a championship, but like they try to say that the main point is that he didn't want to play Russ no more. So with Russ gone, he still wants to be out. I think it's more of a ownership thing. I think I think if you look at everything that kind of happened in Houston this offseason, like, ownership is really maybe a problem over there. We talked about him on here a lot, about he's always cut costing and things like that, trying to get under luxury tax he doesn't want to pay. But I think him coming out and being a Trump supporter was kind of just the top of the line thing for both of them, when they're kind of just like, yeah, I kind of want to get out of here. Because I guess a lot of rumors came out after, but I don't think a lot of those problems that people are saying are problems are the real problems. I think Russ and Harden kind of just let people say what they were going to say about, that's the problem, this is the problem. Especially for Russ. I think he kind of just saw that he was a Trump supporter and was kind of like, yeah, Harden, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and I mean, not just that. Like, I think there was really no light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the team owner in Houston, Tillman Fertitta's, you know, a guy that, even though he says the opposite, his actions show that he's not willing to spend to keep that team afloat. He's, the last couple of years since he's took over, he's avoided the luxury tax every time by getting Daryl Morey to make moves to get them right under the tax. So I think when they looked at the fact that, you know, it's been all these years now that they haven't gotten to the finals and they've fallen short all these years, on top of that, there just hasn't been a move necessary during the season or even in the off season that's like, all right, they got their core guys and now they got these other pieces that'll push them over the top. It's just like, all right, what else are we doing here?
But I think if both of them kind of locked in and said that they wanted to stay there, like, that's what I was saying. Like, as soon as both of them axed out, it was kind of hard for them to do anything. Like, I think if both of them still wanted to be there this summer, there's a couple players maybe they could have got to come over there to want to play with them. That maybe where like even Harden, like we agreed with them, and Harden said that they felt like they were one piece away. I felt like even the same thing I was saying about the Wizards. I think the Rockets could have maybe possibly pulled off. I guess they didn't really get picks, but they got a couple picks this summer, even before the Russ trade, where they could have kind of maybe pulled off a Kevin Love trade or something like that. So they had some moves that could be made, but no moves could be made with both of them axing out. Like, it'd make more sense to them after the offseason, like now, right before the season starts, to be like, okay, you guys didn't do nothing. Maybe we want out of here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Kevin Love, too. I thought that would be a perfect move for the Rock. I mean, I've always said I wanted to see Russ and Kevin Love to get a chance to team up again, go back to those UCLA days. But Kevin Love is a guy that seemed to, at least in the Daryl Morey era, Kevin Love was a guy that seemed like he fit in perfectly for what the Rockets were doing. He had already been playing stretch five with Cleveland back when LeBron was there, and they would, had that lineup. He can stretch the floor because he's not a big man, but he can play that shooting big man role. So that was something that you would have thought that they would have tried to look in, regardless of what Cleveland was saying, and they just never went for it. But it's moves like that, or lack of moves like that, that probably make those two guys say, all right, what else are we doing here? Because at the end of the day, that was what was reported, that they didn't like they weren't happy with management and ownership and how things were being run. They didn't even feel like they were consulted.
Yeah, well, that kind of came out to not be true, because Jeff Van Gundy and Steven Silas said that Russ is kind of the reason that, Russ is the reason Steven Silas got the job, but Jeff Van Gundy said that he talked to Russ during the process. So that was maybe they wasn't consulted on the final decision, but then the reports are also that they hired Steven Silas because those two guys wanted him, and he was thinking about Jeff Van Gundy. So I don't think those reports are as true. I just think they just didn't want to be there no more.
I'll tell you this, though. They did sign off on Silas, but that doesn't mean Silas was their first choice. And from everything we've heard, they wanted Ty Lue over there. They did, and the Rockets did not do anything to entice Lue to stay over there, and they decided to go they decided to let Lue go over to the Clippers, and that's when they eventually made the choice over to Steven Silas. So I think there's a lot of things that go into that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's something we really don't know. We don't know how hard Houston went after him, because if Houston maybe even tried their hardest to go after him, he still might have took that Clippers job.
Yeah, it's possible. We'll see. But speaking of Ty Lue and the Clippers, before we get on out of here, there was a.
Well, after this, I'm a Shad. I don't know if Shad's in here, but I'm going to go on a rant about the Knicks.
All right. Well, anyway, speaking of the Clippers and everything going on over there, man, why you gotta do that for? There's a little friction. There's a little friction going on with the Clippers with Paul George and Doc Rivers, apparently. And you know what? I'm gonna be the first one to say it, because you kind of saw it coming when Paul George was first being introduced by the Clippers, because he made a comment during his introduction that him and Doc were supposed to go out to dinner, and Doc kind of blew him off. I don't know if you guys know the story of Doc Rivers and Paul George, and as far as behind the scenes go, I'm not going to bring that up, but definitely it was an interesting dynamic for him to play for Doc to begin with. But anyway, let's get to the point here. Not Doc Rivers. Paul George comes out in an interview talking about the Clippers blowing the 3-1 lead and everything. And he had an interesting comment where he said, Doc really wasn't using him correctly. The things that Doc was doing is things that he can do, but it wasn't really his game. So then Doc comes out and throws shots back out where he says, well, Ty Lue is on the bench right next to me, so things aren't really going to change. So is it just PG being salty with Doc, or does he have a point?
I think if we're gonna bring it up, we kind of gotta let them know what happened for the people who don't.
We don't have to do that. We don't gotta get spicy.
I don't want to bring up people's personal life. That's not really me. But we're kind of leaving people some people are in here like we don't even know what happened. What's the hate for? So I feel like we kind of gotta bring it up. So long story short, he was dating Doc's daughter. He cheated on her, whatever. So that's why they kind of didn't like each other. So then he ends up being his coach. But I think I seen someone. It was like a tweet that kind of commented on the video when it came out that they showed the stats that he didn't do as much running off screens and stuff as Paul George was saying. I think most of his plays came out of pick and rolls and things like that. So it could be PG throwing a little salt at Doc Rivers, but also it could be PG just not wanting to take kind of the blame for the fall down. It could be him just kind of blaming it on the guy who's not there anymore. It could be one of those things where, like, because even LeBron said in that interview, we all expected the Clippers to win. So since they didn't win, a lot of blame's been on PG and on Kawhi about how they've been treated. PG comes and does his first interview, and he kind of just deflects on the guy who's not there anymore because he doesn't have to get up and go practice tomorrow and look at the guy no more. So it's easy to blame it on the guy that's not there no more. And I think Doc kind of answered it the right way. He did say, I think he was joking more when he said that about Ty Lue because him and Ty Lue are kind of great friends. But I think he kind of tried to avoid it. He was kind of like, we're not going to get into it too much. We lost. But Ty Lue was there too. So I think I like the way Doc handled it. And it could just be PG, kind of being PG.
Yeah, man. Who knows? We'll see. Definitely, I can't wait to see those two teams play against each other, though.
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely. And I tweeted it the other day, last night too. With this LeBron and Kyrie thing coming out, just another reason why the Nets should have played the Lakers on Christmas Day.
I hear you.
Must see TV.
I hear you. So you said you had a rant. Let's get to it.
Nah, I was just joking. Bashad called me out before the show. So, about me getting on the Knicks all day. The Knicks are still, I expect them to have a better year this year maybe than they had in the past, but the Knicks are still going to be the Knicks. They're going to find some type of way to kind of implode and fold. And my son Russ is in the Eastern Conference now, so I'm predicting that Russ and the Wizards beat the Knicks 4-0 because I think they probably play 3 times. And, the Knicks are still going to be the Knicks. So shout out to you, Shot, and your Knicks.
I would just tell you that with Tibbs there, I wouldn't sleep on the Knicks and what they'll be. They're not in a very talented roster by any stretch, but I'll give them something. They'll be competitive in some games there. I'll give them that. Right.
Just hopefully he doesn't run his young players into the ground because we know how Tibbs does. So hopefully he learns from his mistakes and the Knicks are on the up. I'm not hating on the Knicks. Knicks are on the up. I just wanted to get back at Shot real fast.
Yeah. I hope Shot is watching because I love when he tunes in and when he gives some feedback and everything. Well, before we do get out of here though, man, because I did want to talk about this. We had a fight this weekend. Errol Spence Jr. took on Danny Garcia. It's Errol Spence Jr.'s first fight back since his car accident went down last year. Horrendous car accident, and we thank God that he came out of that alive. He's very lucky to be alive after that. And he didn't knock him out. He didn't drop him or anything. No stoppages or anything like that. But he dominated Danny Garcia. And when the fight was announced that this is going to be Errol Spence Jr.'s first fight back, I was a little like, whoa, like he's not going to take a tune-up fight like Danny. I'm like, Errol Spence Jr. would beat Danny Garcia, but to have that as your first fight back was just like, I don't know about that. Like maybe Danny could sneak one out, but Errol Spence Jr. really went out there. He dominated that fight. It was really kind of like a mauling, opened up Garcia's eye. Garcia, he didn't really be the aggressive fighter that you needed him to be. His dad was definitely mentioning it to him in the corner a few times, and he just stayed the same as far as being a defensive fighter, trying to throw off anything that Errol was doing. And it really didn't work out for him. He got a little more aggressive at the end of the fight, but it was too little, too late. So Errol went out there and he dominated the fight. And kudos to him. I can't wait to see what he does next. We'll see if Sean Porter's the mandatory for both belts now, and we'll see what happens there. But we all want to see him fight Terrence Crawford. But it was definitely, I thought Errol needed to make a statement that night because of what Terrence Crawford did to Kell Brook. But considering the circumstances, ring rust and everything like that, I thought that was a very good showing by him.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to agree with kind of everything you said. I think for him, from what I've seen from the fight, I think he kind of started off kind of not as great on defense, and then later on, I think he kind of figured it out and got his defense together a little bit. I mean, I didn't think he was losing the fight or anything, but that's just like one thing I've seen. But he did show us that he can take a hit. Like that's kind of what I talked about on here last week. He has to show us from the accident that he can be able to come back, take a hit, be able to kind of and how he's gonna feel. I think what Mike Tyson said it, like everyone has a plan until you get hit. So I think he came back. He shows that he can take a hit, and like you said, from here it's just where does he go next? Like you said, everyone wants to see the Terrence Crawford fight, and that's kind of, I know he talked about it a lot. He said that maybe I think he said it might happen, but I'm not sure if that was before the accident or after the accident. So I think it was just from here. We like everyone kind of like from what I've seen and heard. Everyone like what they seen from him and things. It seems like he's back. So now it's kind of just where he goes from here.
Absolutely, man. And I can't wait to see it unfold. Definitely going to be looking out for that one moving forward. We will be back with you guys. No, you got something else?
I mean, since we brought up boxing, we might as well bring up the was it Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather taking a fight against Jake Paul. So what'd you think about that?
I mean, Floyd's a businessman. I think he sees the fact that Jake and Logan Paul, like, they're just getting their boxing careers started out. But I mean, they've been training. I'll give them their props where they're due. They've been training, and they're not bad boxers. You know what I mean? So it's a draw in that sense. And also, like, their names. They got a ton of Twitter followers and everything with their viral videos and everything they do on YouTube. But for Floyd, I mean, Floyd is in the business of making money, and he's gonna do what he has to do when he feels it necessary. I think it's a fight that he definitely knows he can win, and it's a draw from the name of Jake Paul to hey, he can box.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, do you want to see Floyd Mayweather kind of taking on these type of fights? It's kind of like, I mean, he took on a couple exhibitions now, just like you said, he's a businessman. And it's kind of like Nate got knocked out and went back and called his big brother. I mean, Floyd's not that much bigger than him, but he's definitely probably the better boxer. So it's like Nate got knocked out and ran and called his big brother. But I don't know, just for like seeing Floyd kind of just take these, maybe, like you said, Jake Paul and them, they've been training to be fighters and things like that, but it's kind of like he's definitely probably not a Floyd Mayweather's caliber or type of fight. So it's like, do you want to see Floyd kind of just take on these kind of just nonchalant fights?
No, I agree, but like Floyd is retired as far as like these are exhibitions he's doing now. He's retired from professional boxing, so this is just kind of him like looking to cash in when he can. And I mean, what I saw we got someone in here saying we need something more than that. But I mean, what else do you want? Like, he's not going to take a professional fight from here on out from where he's at. Like, he's who would you see him go after other than that? Like, is he? I mean, me personally, I wasn't a fan of the McGregor thing, because I'm looking at it from a boxing standpoint. McGregor's an MMA fighter. He's not a boxer. This is a true skill. It's hand-to-hand combat, you know what I mean? Not everything else that comes with it. So I just don't know who else you would want him to fight right now.
I think Floyd, he retired. I want to just see him go kind of retire. I mean, I would kind of rather, I agree. I would rather see Jake Paul fight Conor McGregor. Kind of, you just brought that up. I think that'd be a fight I'd be more interested to see. I think maybe Floyd, he said he was retired. I think you should just go off into retirement, because then I feel like it's one of those things where it's kind of like maybe you tarnish your name a little bit just doing all this like kind of stupid for fun fights a little bit. I guess I think it may be like, it's kind of like people gonna look like, okay, like, what are you doing, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'm going to dish out the money to watch that, but I mean, Floyd's a businessman. He knows what he's doing. I think from when you look at the fact that Jake Paul is a boxer in some sense, he definitely train. He really does train in boxing and everything like that. And then the following that he has, I could see what Floyd is doing there. It's a smart business move on his part. People will buy.
Yeah, but it kind of boosts it kind of boosts Jake Paul's name more than it kind of boosts Floyd. So, I mean, Floyd get the money, and that's kind of all he's about. But Jake Paul now kind of gets the more publicity and things like that. And that's just going to bring him more money, too. So, at the end of the day, Floyd wins, but maybe Jake Paul wins more. And then, if he comes and knocks Floyd out, even though nobody thinks it's going to happen, but what if he comes and knocks Floyd out?
It could happen. I don't know if I'd see it. You know, it could have, because like I said, this isn't like, you know, some thing where it's just like there's no match here. Like he really is a trained boxer. You know, so it could happen. I just wouldn't pick it to go down.
But think about how crazy that would be if Jake Paul comes out and knocks Floyd Mayweather out like that.
Yeah.
That would be crazy, and that's why it's gonna sell. But like, it's been a crazy year. Who knows how next year is gonna go because the fight is scheduled for next year. But we have seen a lot of crazy things. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. Before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to Flow Wrestling, who went and put on a nice, fantastic event, the RTC Cup. They had a bunch of club teams go out and compete against each other. The Cliff Keen Wrestling Club went out there and won the entire thing. This was a dual tournament format. We got to see a bunch of great matches. Yanni Diakmahalis, who is an Olympic hopeful in his own right. He went out there. He showed out. I believe he got a tech fall over Sammy Sasso. Got a win over James Green as well. James Green got a win over Echemedia, who's a freshman over at Ohio State. It's definitely a good event overall, and you guys should definitely check out Flow Wrestling here moving forward. Before we get out of here, Kay, I don't know if you got anything else to add.
Nah, not really. I want to shout out to everyone that's here, everyone that stuck with us, everyone that came out, everyone that left. Definitely subscribe and like the video. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 o'clock.
We will be back next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, man. Show your love, show support. We appreciate it. Peace.